Hey losers, welcome back to a new episode here at Zero Loser Studio. Unless you live under a rock, you must have watched Nintendo's Direct last week. And of course, their big announcement of putting Skyward Sword HD on the Switch. Of course, Zelda fans like myself weren't really too happy about the announcement.
Boo this man!
We were looking forward for more Breath of the Wild 2 news, updates. Heck, even maybe Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, or Wind Waker ported over to the Switch. Instead, we got Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword is really infamous for being the weakest Zelda game out of the entire series. Of course, besides Zelda 2 and the CDI Zelda games. But is Skyward Sword as bad as we think it is? Or is it the case of just hating on something because it's popular to hate on? Well, losers, let's investigate and get to the bottom of it. Nintendo started developing Skyward Sword after the release of Twilight Princess in 2006. The game was released on the Wii in 2011. When the game was released, it was met with a lot of commercial and critical success. A lot of gaming journalists and websites praised the game. They were in love with this game. And it became the Wii's top-selling game besides, the Mario games. Skyward Sword ended up selling 3 million copies worldwide, so it did really good. I mean, the numbers speak for itself. So where the hell did the hate come from? The overwhelming positive reviews from gaming websites should prove to the Zelda fans that Skyward Sword deserves all the love and attention. So let's investigate. Alright, so let's get the most obvious reason out of the way first. Let's talk about the controls in Skyward Sword. The Wii's selling point is its motion controls, and Nintendo wanted to 100% implement that in the gameplay. Unfortunately, in the middle of development, they realized you need the Motion Plus to execute these complex motions, as well as the nunchuck. Nintendo was really pressed about making sure that Skyward Sword implemented every Wii function. They wanted to implement every motion they can into this game. So what do these controls do? The Wii Remote controls the sword and other basic mechanics, like swimming and aiming. The nunchuck controls the shield and your camera angles. When you engage in battle, you have to swing your Wii Remote in certain motions to execute particular sword swings. If you swing horizontally, you'll swing your sword horizontally, same as vertically, and if you jab your Wii Remote, you'll do a stab motion. The enemies in the game are also programmed to react to your motions. They block accordingly to how you swing your Wii Remote, forcing the player to think of a strategy, which honestly I personally think it's a good thing. It adds a fair difficulty to the game and makes it more interesting. The biggest annoyance is having to use various motions to execute basic controls all the time, 40 hours. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, we get it, it's Skyward Sword, and it wouldn't be Skyward Sword if it didn't have its motion controls. That's what makes this Zelda game super unique. But it wasn't necessary to implement motion controls for, swimming. Yes, you needed to move your Wii Remote to swim. That could have been done with normal buttons. I feel like if Nintendo just limited the motion controls for the sword and shield, it would have appealed better to players. So Link carries the same personality traits like in most Zelda games. Link is your quiet hero, but he's given a more goofy vibe to him. Zelda, on the other hand, I really like this Zelda. She's sassier, and we get to see her personality shine more in the beginning. The relationship between Link and Zelda is better established. They're childhood best friends, and you can see how strong their relationship is. In previous Zelda titles, Link and Zelda are strangers, often finding themselves in really dangerous situations and very convenient circumstances, and that's how they meet. And then, Zelda's kidnapped or trapped, blah blah blah. Link happens to be the chosen hero. He has to go on a quest to save Zelda. You know the gist. Honestly, it's kind of like, why do we care? Why are these characters so important to each other? So I'm really glad that Skyward Sword really established why we should care about these two characters and their importance to each other. I'm really glad Skyward Sword went with that childhood best friend route, because it works. They also changed the antagonist in the game. Instead of the usual Ganon, we have Girahim, who is a demon spirit set to capture Zelda and use her spirit to resurrect the Demon King, Demise. Again, it's a super nice change, because how many times do we have to teach Ganon the same lesson over and over and over again? And serving as Link's companion, we have Fi. Fi is a humanoid spirit that lives within the Master Sword, created by the goddess Hylia. She isn't anyone's favorite, unfortunately. She sounds like a computer and even gives the player and Link's statistics, examples like how long your current gameplay session is, and she'll even tell you your batteries are almost dead in your Wii remote. A lot of complaints about Fi is that she really breaks the immersion in the game. She randomly pops out of the sword to spoon feed you information that you could 100% figure out on your own in her robotic Siri sounding voice. And because of this constant break of immersion, fans have zero emotional connection to Fi. In other titles like Twilight Princess, people loved Midna as Link's companion. She was funny and sassy, and if you actually needed hints on how to solve a puzzle or what's the next objective, all you had to do was press a button and she's there to help. Fi just exists. Which sucks because honestly, she could have been a really cool companion if she was developed differently. Last but not least, we have everyone's favorite, Groose. He's your stereotypical bully who ends up teaming up with you to help you on your quest to save Zelda. He's a goofball and just lovable with his funny lines. Near the end of the game, he even suggests naming the adventure The Legend of Groose. Which, I mean, I'm 100% here for it. Groose is a fan favorite. He's just goofy, funny, lovable. He's just... We love Groose. We stan Groose in this house. And the rest of the game is just full of your average NPCs that kind of tells you about the world, any hints, any like random conversations, you know, just your normal NPCs. That's just really it. As many of you know, or don't know, Skyward Sword serves as the origin story for the entire Legend of Zelda series. So, let's investigate the story and the pacing of it. The story starts with the Demon King Demise wreaking havoc on the land in search of the Triforce. The Triforce is a sacred golden relic that holds the ultimate power. The goddess Hylia defeated Demise and sent remaining survivors from the disaster to the sky above. The land where the survivors were put on is called Skyloft. As time went on, the story of the goddess Hylia, the Demon King Demise, and the land below the clouds became myth to the Skyloft residents. Fast forward to the present time, we meet our very first Link. He's a knight in training and passes his final exam in the beginning of the game. To celebrate, Link and Zelda get on their loft wings, which are huge birds used to fly around the sky, and enjoy a flight together. During the flight, Zelda gets sucked in by a tornado to the mysterious land below. Link is awakened by Fi and takes him to the statue of Hylia where he pulls the goddess sword, making him the chosen one. Also, he wears his signature green tunic. And guess what? There's absolutely zero significance behind the green tunic. I know that's like the signature look for Link in every Zelda game, but they never went into detail why. He just wore it. That was the color he picked, so they ran with that. So, sorry to disappoint you guys. Now that he's armed with the sword, Link has to go to land below to save Zelda, which sounds like a typical Zelda game plot, right? So again, why is it so hated? Honestly, this is where the pacing starts to fall apart. There are only 3 regions you travel through: the Faron Woods, Elden Volcano, and Lenaru Desert. And there's so much backtracking. You're basically chasing after Zelda through these 3 levels, only to see Zelda destroy the Gate of Time and disappear with a mysterious woman you later find out to be Impa. You also find out that Zelda is actually the goddess Hylia reincarnated. I don't know. Girahim shows up and you fight him. Then after that, it's more missions through the same 3 levels that just feels like chores. Like for example, having to find songs to play on the goddess harp. All the running back and forth is the reason why I stopped playing the game. I was in the middle of the game looking for these songs to play on the harp and I couldn't take it anymore. The back and forth, the backtracking, the getting lost, the same 3 levels over and over again. I quit. I called it quits, and that's where I left off personally in my gameplay. Good news is the dead pace finally starts to pick up near the end when you finally face off for the last time Girahim and then the Demon King Demise. The battle is pretty intense and you have better learn how to master the motion controls with sword fighting because it can be super difficult when fighting Demise. When Link finally gives Demise the last blow, Demise uses the last dying words to curse Link and Zelda. Demise's final words are, "Those who share the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero, they are eternally bound to this curse. An incarnation of my hatred shall ever follow your kind." And that incarnation would be Ganon. And losers, that is how the Legend of Zelda series was born. Link and Zelda are cursed to be reincarnated, forced into this vicious cycle of danger in a series of unfortunate events. And they're forever haunted by the Demon King Demise. That's really, really depressing. I would actually try to find a way to break this curse and rest in peace, because I can't imagine having to do this over and over and over again. Like, and it's so stupid. I mean, Link ends up kicking Ganon's ass every time anyways. There's gotta be a point where Demise is like, all right, you win. Like, again.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
So yeah, that's Skyward Sword. It's not a terrible game, but it's not an amazing game. It's meh. I do 100% honestly recommend playing the game because, like I said, it does serve as the origin story for the entire series. There are some Easter eggs you can totally find if you have already played the Zelda series, or if you're new and you want to dip your toes into the Zelda series, there you go. That's the game where you can start out. And then when you play the other games, you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. As stated in the Nintendo Direct, Breath of the Wild was born from some ideas borrowed from Skyward Sword. From the stamina bar, some of the artwork of the enemies and characters, to the sailing cloth you used to get around. So you actually might enjoy Skyward Sword, and hopefully it can give you a fix before the sequel is dropped. So what do you guys think? Do you think Skyward Sword deserved to be ported over to the Switch? Do you think it was a good idea? Have you played the game before? If you have, let me know your opinions down below what you think of the game. Do you think it deserves to be hated like it is, or it's just a whatever game? Or maybe you like the game. I know several people who enjoy Skyward Sword. They love this game. And I mean, I'm not gonna rain on their parade. Anyways, losers, that's all that we have for today. I'll see you next time. Bye.